All right, so I've been thinking about doing a post on this for a while. I just came across this comment that I replied to someone else asking me what I was going to talk about next. So let's talk about this. If you don't know me, I am a working adult amateur rider. I've ridden my whole life, had a back injury along the way, recently got back into it, bought a couple horses, showing, etc. Also have 2 small children, also work in marketing and the technology space. So I'm fairly qualified to talk about this topic. So I'm not here to talk about like e-commerce and how marketing has changed, like how you shop online for horse stuff or even like finding horses online. What I do want to talk about is the impact of social media as it relates to barns and trainers. And what I find really curious about this is how it's being used at particular barns in particular niche aspects of this sport. So just looking at like the top 3 equitation barns, North Run, Heritage Farm, and Beacon Hill. They used to not have much of a social media presence, at least for the last like if we go back five years ago or so. Maybe they had like an Instagram handle, maybe they had a Facebook page, but there wasn't a lot of content being created there beyond like a couple of posts here and there. And what I've started to notice is that a couple years ago, they really started posting like a lot of content, and it was a lot of very specific visual curated experience content that they were clearly investing in. And sometimes it would be like a barn tour with Stacia Madden, or here's like where we exercise the horses when it's raining outside, or things like let's interview this new up and coming client and see how they prepare for some big event. It was more than just like reporting on horse show results. But yes, there's also quite a bit around like the performance of their athletes, the performance of the people and the horses that they're buying and selling. And there's a lot of content beyond just like posting photos in the winner's circle. It's like videos of people standing at the end gate and behind the scenes. And I find this really interesting because those 3 barns are arguably like where you decide to send your kid if you want them to compete at like the highest levels of equitation. They don't need any advertising, and most of what they're doing is like through word of mouth and referrals, right? Like you're going to go ask your trainer, or you're going to get connected with a trainer that says this is where you need to go if you want to have access to the best training or the best eq horses. And that's where you're going to, if you can afford it, that's where you're going to send your kid. But yet they're investing in marketing. So why would they be investing in marketing? Okay, so marketing has a few purposes, right? Like there is the practical aspect of you market to create brand awareness. You market to create, people and demand interested in your products. You market to establish a brand and to define your brand. You also sometimes market to retain customers. And I think this is an interesting one. Sometimes you market to your own clients so that they don't churn or go away. And you might also market to increase the value of your brand, which equals being able to charge more. So if I think about these barns, they've already established like a brand identity. Like each one of them has their own kind of unique aspect and story about who they are, like Andre Dignelli, Missy Clark, Stacia Madden. They all have an identity that if you know a little bit about the circuit, you probably understand what their identity is. And there's also other ways that they've created their identities, such as how their show setups look, what their websites might have looked like at one point, right? Like there's other stuff there. So I don't think it's really like brand identity. And then we think about brand awareness. I think the brand awareness is there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's people that just haven't heard of these barns and they come across them on Instagram and decide to go show with them. I just don't think there's that many people doing that. I do think that there's an aspect of demand generation, which is to say there's this like, I want to be a part of this barn because they are having all this success. And by showcasing that, that might make people want to pursue that, even if they already know who they are and they have a way to get in touch with them, or their trainer has suggested that they get in touch with them if that's what they want to do with their kids, whatever. So that might be part of it. But the thing I think is really actually interesting is the customer retention aspect and the value creation aspect of marketing. Every time you acquire a customer, generally there's like an amount of cost that it takes to acquire a customer. And if you lose that customer, you're also losing future revenue, future potential, whatever. And so to keep a customer is extremely important. And I do think there's an aspect here, which is the marketing has almost become a way that barns show they're investing in their people and their customers. And where does that come from? Why does it matter? One reason why I think it really matters, especially over the last few years, is related to the equestrian sports at Division I colleges, which I could go on a whole nother tirade about how I feel about that. But if you think that your talent and the people that you're teaching is ultimately they're trying to ascend to becoming a D1 athlete in this sport, you want to show them that you're invested in their riding career, such as posting videos about their successes, amplifying who they are so that, recruiters see them and see that your student is doing well. Being attractive to recruiters to keep up with all of your students so that perhaps there's more opportunity for more people that you're teaching. So that's one thing. I think that there's a lot of this in the equitation world in particular tied up in college recruiting and college aspirations. But I also think there's a little bit here that is just kind of I'm trying not to say the word vanity, but a little bit of that, right? And I'm vain, I'm totally fine with vanity. So I don't want to say that that's anything wrong with showcasing your clients. I think it's great. If my trainer posts a picture of me, I'm sharing it, I love it. I'm all for it. No shame. The other thing though that is also interesting is the value creation. And so if you curate these experiences online and they become somewhat accessible to people from the outside looking in, myself included, the value that is created for the customer might be perceived by that customer as higher or more because it lives on and it isn't just we went to the show, we got a ribbon and we moved on. It can be experienced more than one time. It can be presented in a way that is very memorable or important and valuable, which it is to the people that are doing the sport, myself included. And I think it creates more value for the customers over time, which I think is actually awesome. And so it also creates an opportunity, let's be honest, this is all business, to charge more money for that experience. So it creates an elite situation where you're paying for that moment in time and that extended moment in time that you're not going to get at some barn that never talks about you on social media. So this post is not here to provide any kind of judgment. It's really just a curiosity for me that I've been thinking about, where to me it's very different than it used to be. And in fact, I would say most all equestrian professionals I've ever encountered are not very tech savvy and don't really like technology and find it very scary. This is very timely given the clinic and all the controversy going on with the clinic and the comments made, which I do not condone. And so most of them find it kind of exposing and scary. And this is a very opposite behavior from that, which is I'm going to expose my barn, myself, my habits, my students, how they work, some of our tips and tricks. You're going to hear me talking and training people. That's a very different mentality that these trainers have had to really kind of adopt and adapt to. So I do actually want to say shout out to all the trainers that are figuring out social media to provide this experience. But I also want to say that clearly there's value in that for both the customer and the prospects of people that might be wanting to send their kids to them and the trainer. So as a marketer, does marketing work? I would say yes. And one of the best examples of that I've seen in the equine industry lately is this thing, which is the investment that barns are making, the elite barns that don't need to make this investment theoretically in marketing to maintain their positions and continue to drive value for their customers. So that's pretty cool. For a marketer nerd like me, I like thinking about that. What do you think?